So let's celebrate while we still can. Captivated, the fruits of my family tree. Where would I be without you? What would you do without me? It'd be a bad look, talking about what could have been. So let's celebrate while we still can. Ooh, on a clear day, you can see West LA, even downtown. I remember when I couldn't see the point, but now I'm at the point where I gotta figure it out. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. I came to fixing up the tree with phone too. About the money in your brother's hand. What's mine is yours. Thought you knew me better than that. I was under the impression that we all want the best of life. So let's celebrate while we still can.
How's your Sundance? It's about to get better. Thank you very much. This is the third and final day of our deadline panels here at the Stella Artois bar. It's been fantastic. If some of you have come before, I thank you. If this is your first time, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to have a panel with the creatives and cast of Monster. And then, we were going to play that kind of low-key, but I guess you can see that a certain person's in the house. But I'd like to introduce the director of Monster, Mr. Anthony Mendler. Now, Anthony, you're going to be here for the entire festival. You guys are you're full steam ahead on this, and you have your debut coming. We are going to, let's just get this. We have a couple people who aren't here yet, and they will be joining us. So you just we're live online and we're live here, so we're just going to play it like that. Anthony, let's if you come over here with me and let's introduce the cast and creatives of Monster. Okay.
Well, first, I want to bring out Kelvin Harrison Jr., who plays Steve Harmon. A name that you will never forget, and a face to go along with it. Next, I'd like to bring out, do we have, yes, Jennifer Ely. Plays O'Brien, defense attorney. Let's bring out one of my personal favorite actors, Paul Ben Victor. Plays Petrocelli, prosecutor. Yes. Rada, can you come up, please? One of our writers. Rada Blank. Let's bring up Mr. John Legend, producer. Mike Jackson. Okay. Now, two of our fearless leaders, Miss Tanya Lee and Miss Nikki Silver.
Tanya Lewis Lee.
All right, Tanya Lewis Lee. And last but not least, Aaron Gilbert, producer, captain. And maybe there's somebody else coming. Probably a big entrance when he does.
It's going to be good.
It'll be a very big entrance.
All right. You sit there, my friend? Yeah. Kelvin, everyone move down a bit here. Okay, great. You all have mics? Anthony's checking his watch for this. Just making sure.
Hello.
All right. So as you can tell, Anthony and I went to the optometrist this morning, got our matching glasses. So Anthony, let's talk a little bit about Monster. It's based on a book, 1999 book. Talk a little bit about how you got involved with this project and what it means to you as a filmmaker. Because this, we should point out, is your feature film debut. Yeah. That's worth a round of applause. I think you can do that. Man gets his debut at Sundance, not too shabby at all.
Thanks. I was sent the script by Tanya and Nikki, and I read the script, I read the book. And I was immediately taken by not just the macro conversation of, what happens to young black boys in this country and this idea of mass incarceration and the criminal justice system, but also the sort of very micro journey of this kid from a great family, from a great neighborhood, who goes to a great school that has every opportunity in the world to be anybody he wants to be. And he wants to be a young filmmaker, he's studying film, and his curiosity leads him to a place where he's caught in a scenario, and he really does the best he can in that scenario, but he ends up on trial as part of a robbery and a murder. And the way that the book was written, Walter D. Meyer's book, which is really a beautiful piece of work and something that we wanted to really honor when we brought it to the screen. It's written in screenplay format. It's written...
and there's photographs and
yes,
all. I mean,
very personal.
It's almost a scrapbook in some ways.
Right, so you're going through the journey with the character. So when that comes to life in a film, it becomes a really beautiful device because you're able to sort of move from perspectives when you're standing next to Steve, when you're watching Steve. And essentially it's a film being written by somebody and it happened to him, and then he's shooting his life, and then we are shooting that. Mm-hmm. So all of those layers to me gave me something that as a young artist that was creating my worldview, many times I was in scenarios I shouldn't have been, more often than not. And there was something that I could really relate to. The bigger story and wanting to sort of tell this this journey and do something that could open a conversation to me was also really attractive because the movie really means something, you know.
Kelvin, you're fantastic in this movie. I mean, you're just fantastic. Now you were in 12 Years a Slave, you were in Birth of a Nation, you were in Mudbound, but this is your first lead role. So what was that like for you? And then taking on, I mean, this is heavy. It's a heavy, heavy role, and you carry a lot of it.
Yeah. It's such, I'm so grateful. You know, you really don't expect things like this to happen. I auditioned in like earlier in the year, and I was like, this is the most beautiful script I've read in a long time, and it's such an interesting character.
Let's give it applause.
Cole Wiley and
Cole.
Janice, and it's a family effort.
Yeah, and I was like, this is such a unique kid, this 17-year-old kid from Harlem who's a filmmaker and this intellectual and introverted, and I was like, man, this kid reminds me of me a little bit, except I'm not cool. But
you're in a lead film in Sundance now, Kelvin. You hit the cool. Like, you got it.
If you say so.
Listen to me. You got all those screens.
But yeah, it was like, that was such an interesting character and an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up. And yeah, talking to Anthony and him, hearing him explain what this film is about, and that we can live in this gray and this insecurity and these questions of coming of age and trying to become a man and in our current times was just really compelling, and I just felt like I needed to be a part of that.
Well, and one of the things also about the film a lot is it challenges, I mean, on the larger issue, it challenges a lot of perceptions. But as you said, your character there's a lot of, the stereotypes are dispensed with almost right away. I wonder, Anthony, you've come out of, well, I mean, a lot of us know you for the work you did with Rihanna, and a lot of the you can applause Rihanna's name, I think. Global superstars get applause at Sundance. But John got his applause.
He's done a couple John Legend videos, too.
And commercials.
And commercials,
And commercials,
yes.
stuff like this. So, for you, as your first feature film, what were some of the challenges you had in dealing with this material, and how did you and Kelvin work together, and what's always the close relationship between director and his lead, finding the vision you wanted?
Well, so many things about making videos and commercials is about adding to what you're seeing. You know, moving the camera and creating flair, creating, spectacle and all that stuff. I think making a film is about, in a way, stripping all of that away and getting to the truth and getting to sort of a simplicity. And certainly with this film, we made it in 20 days with no rehearsals and no reshoots.
Wow.
So it was first and foremost about putting a cast together of people that were, to me, at the highest level that I could put everybody in a bottle and seal it and shake it and just ride that energy. And get to the heart of things, and not worry about, anything that didn't really galvanize the message. And that was the approach. And all of these people you see putting their hands together and us going on this crazy wild ride.
Kelvin, what was that like? I mean, in a sense, you guys, you were partners in a debut in this together. Because, what was that like for you, and what was it like working with Anthony? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but give us a sense of that relationship and how you guys really worked and developed the character and the narrative together.
He's amazing, and he really empowered me to be confident, and that's the big part of Steve. Is this confidence that he has, that New York swagger we kept talking about, and it just became a lot of questions, just asking a lot of questions, and combining Anthony's background with being a filmmaker and from being in LA and kind of knowing the New York scene, and me being a young black kid in New Orleans who played music and being an artist, and so it was really establishing those that foundation and that background of the home life, to kind of say who this kid was and how will this transform him throughout the film. And that's what we kind of really just talked about a lot, right?
I think the nuance of authenticity was imperative. Kelvin's not from New York. We brought him in early. We surrounded him with a couple people that are here today and their friends to make sure we got a really authentic New York experience.
How was that? As someone who grew up in New York, how was that for you?
I grew up in New Orleans.
No, I grew up in New York.
Oh, yo. Well, it was crazy, but I hung out with Tanya's kids, and I was like, and Satchel and Jackson, they're so cool, yo. And they and I went to Todd Satchel's apartment, and she gave me a list of all the New York slang, and I was like, I have to learn these things and get, So it's cool, but and New York people are way cooler than me. I keep saying that. Sorry.
You gotta let that go, brother. You gotta let that go. Tanya and Nikki, what drew you to this project, and what made? I mean, Walter D. Meyer's book is a classic and well read, but it's a very particular type of story. And Anthony talks about it. It's not your traditional novel. It's I almost see it as a scrapbook. I know other people see you talk about it being like a screenplay. What drew you to this, and how did you see it being adapted for the screen?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, we love the book, obviously, as you say, and the fact that it's about this kid who is an artist who goes through this incredibly horrific situation. We really love the idea of the power of art to tell a story that can change the way people not only see a young man, but also the way we change our criminal justice system, the way we deal with one another as human beings. And so that was really at the core of what really brought us to it. And I will tell you, it's interesting. It's written as a screenplay, so I think there's an initial thought that it might be an easy adaptation because you just take the screenplay and put it up there. But it doesn't work like that. You have to really develop it so that it exists as a film on its own, which is a little more complex than it may initially look.
And I would just add, I mean, we started with such an amazing piece of material. Walter Dean Meyer's book has been, it's won every award out there. It's sold 2 million copies. But the thing about the book is it's really a cautionary tale for all teens. And I think that's the thing that bonded Tanya and I originally to the material. And then we said, let's put this amazing, diverse group of people together to tell this story that this black boy's life matters. And then we were so lucky and fortunate to put this amazing, starting with John, team together that has been able to do that. And we're so excited to share it with you guys.
Now, John, you and Mike, Get Lifted, you guys are Sundance alums now.
Yeah, we come here often. We interview with you often. We love it.
Well, I just try to make it work. But I have to say, once again, second year in a row, John Legend wins the Sweater of Sundance Award. I'm sorry, Mike. Look.
I have a very good stylist, and Gucci's very good at making sweaters.
I'm not from Gucci.
We'll go high-couture, low-couture. But what attracted to you, and why did you think this was a strong project for Get Lifted?
Well, I ran into Tanya like a couple times in a couple days, and both times she was like, you got to see this project that we have. We really are excited about it, and we want to work with you on it. And she sent it to me and Mike, and we both read it, and our thing with Get Lifted is we just want to be behind quality stuff that we're excited about, that I'm happy to put my name behind, and that we as a team are happy to represent out there in the world. And then also I do a lot of work in this area on the side in my nonprofit where we focus on mass incarceration and how we can improve our criminal justice system. And so I thought this was a beautiful opportunity to marry a really riveting script, a really amazing source material that was highly regarded as well, with an issue that I really care about, and we decided as a team that we wanted to do this. And the first time I read the script, I was like, I couldn't put it down. Kept turning the pages, wanting to find out what happened.
And you read the book?
I had not read the book, and so for me it was like a new experience, and I was like truly riveted, trying to figure out how's this going to end. And I think I knew that was going to make for a powerful, entertaining film experience. And it also, in the way that it tells the story, helps you really empathize with Steve's character and think about how the justice system is so inhumane and dehumanizes kids like Steve so often.
And I mean this both literally and figuratively. One thing it shows with the book and the film, and I know that you know this from your work, is it really the justice system so often tries to make things literally or figuratively black and white, when there are so many variations and nuances.
Yeah, and we so often, because the rules are the rules, but we don't realize that
mandatory sentencing.
Yeah, there's a lot of mandatory, but we also don't realize there's a lot of discretion that prosecutors actually have, and I don't want to get into the whole criminal justice reform
that
thing.
can also be AKA discrimination.
Yeah, and when they have discretion, it means certain people get the benefit of the doubt, and certain people don't. And too often people that look like us don't get the benefit of the doubt, and they're called a monster when they're clearly not. They're called a super predator when they're clearly not. And so we need to kind of interrogate the way we think it's black and white, but it's actually a lot of discretion, which leads to discrimination.
Rhoda, I wanted to get a sense, and John has talked about it, and both Tanya and Nikki did, and we've talked about it from the book. What was that process like for you guys, taking it from that page to your page?
I was a part of the very early stages of the writing of the script, Edward Nahum, who's one of the producers, had come to see a play of mine called Seed about a black kid, a reluctant genius from the projects in Harlem. I'm from Harlem. So Edward saw parallels between the protagonist in my play and Stephen's character. And I think for me, just in the early stages, it's like, what are the moments in the book, which is 275 pages long? What are the moments in that story that cannot be left out of the film? And so that was just early on what I was focusing on. But, you know, I'm a writer, I'm from Harlem. I do not have a penis. Wait, did you weren't
I was
sure?
very, very sure.
There's a lot of baritone. Very, you see my beard. But, so I feel like that's where writers like Cole Wiley come in, because he does have a penis. But I'm from Harlem, so it's about marrying all of those parts of our voices that will help to authenticate. And then you get someone like ASAP to come in and just fucking kill that shit. Because he's phenomenal.
That can get a round of applause, I think.
Oh my God. When you see his performance, and I just want to say something about what's so special about this moment in storytelling is, you know, with the Me Too movement and My Name Isn't, that comes out of She's Gotta Have It, you know, there's a lot of focus on respectability where women are concerned, having our voices heard and being seen. But what I think is so special about the festival this year is the stories have been curated to kind of elevate the young black male voice. Between Monsters and Men, a film I saw yesterday, We the Animals. Blind Spotting. But just adding to the layers of humanity and complexity of the young black male, like refusing to see him as a criminal and really getting into the interiors. And that's why I think a film like this, I know that audiences across the board are going to love it, but I think young black men in particular are going to see themselves in a way that they haven't been seen. And it makes it easier for writers like myself to go back in and say, I want to do a story about a teenage boy from the Bronx or Staten Island or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? So this is not just an entertaining, wonderful piece of art. It's an important moment in storytelling and visibility for young black males, you know?
Very well said. Anthony, I want to talk a little bit about the look of the film, because the look of the film is very much a character unto itself, I feel. But let's talk also, we have some other cast members here. I want to talk about Jennifer and stuff. Let's give people a sense of what their roles are in the film and why you chose them to be in Monster.
Well, Jennifer Ely plays Maureen O'Brien, who's Steve Harmon's lawyer. And I couldn't say enough great things about working with Jennifer and about admiring her work. She is, you know, a true professional and a true just master. Subtlety, you know, maintaining energy and giving when you need. She's the most giving actress I've ever been, actress I've ever been around when it comes to nourishing an environment with with the rest of her cast. But we needed somebody who had a duality as well. You know, so often these lawyers have 30, 40, 50 cases. And the real question is, do they care about the kid? Do they really care, or they just want to get it off their table? And if you start to zoom in onto that concept and get into the nuance of what really happened, in a sense, you get into law, right? You get into that it's black ink written on white paper. Well, life really exists in the gray. There's very few things in the world that are black and white. But that social gray in the middle, when you sort of go through the letters and you get to what's in between, there's a lot of people that get caught in that dragnet because the prosecutors won't allow for people to reinterpret the law. You have to follow what the law says. Now,
and there's an assembly line process that also is
sure,
kicking in as well, especially in giant cities like New York.
And if there's a violent crime where someone's dead, and if that person is part of a positive community, is a positive community, you know, a person that's positive in that community, they will want the maximum for everybody that was involved in it. So we needed, getting back to Jennifer Ely, we needed somebody that you could read a warmth in their face, but also something that could turn cold. And playing that line ultimately till the end was my direction, and what I think we accomplished was you're not quite sure who she is. Does she really care or not? Mm-hmm. And that sort of brings me to Paul Ben Victor.
We can clap, I think.
I thought Jennifer was going to have something to say.
No, we're good.
Are you sure? Jennifer.
Paul Van Victor, ladies and gentlemen.
You know,
Carry on, Anthony. I'm waiting. Go right ahead.
Well, in the book, it's written as two female, a female prosecutor and a female lawyer. We ended up changing the character to a man. But regardless of that, my backstory was I wanted somebody that went to work every day with something personal, a personal attachment to the law. And in my mind, it was that his father was a cop who was killed while eating his breakfast in a car. Somebody just walked up and shot him. It was something that happened a lot in the 70s in New York. And that this boy becomes a man and becomes a lawyer, and he sort of pins his father's badge number pin to the inside of his lapel every day. And he goes to work with this desire that he's on the front lines of helping solve crime and make the world a better place. And you know, worked very closely with a prosecutor who helped me understand the power that prosecutors have, that they can really determine how cases are going to go. Because generally speaking, what we see is the maximums, because that's what the drama is, that we can throw the book at somebody, we can make an example of somebody. That's an incredibly powerful place. What I wanted was a guy that sort of really believed in that system. You know, I mean, it was our job to work against that. You know, and Paul brought a ferociousness and a strength. You know, look, the personality of A$AP Rocky, John David Washington who plays Bobo. You know, Tim Blake Nelson, you know, plays.
You can say it. Oh, you're right. Hey!
Wow.
Wow. Now that is time for an entrance, my friend. Wow.
A$AP Rocky.
Right here at the end, my friend. Wow.
What's up, everybody? Sorry, I'm late.
No, we just
See,
started.
you had perfect timing, my man. Anthony was just talking about you. As you were saying.
Okay. A$AP Rocky. So when I read this script for the first time, you know, as a director, you start imagining people, and then you work through reality. Like, well, you're never going to get that person. A$AP and I had a previous relationship on somebody we worked with, and I just, in my mind, there was nobody else that could play the role of King. Not just because he was from Harlem, but again, another duality. A guy that represents sort of an energy in the street, but you look at him like, well, if one or two things would have gone different in his life, maybe he would have been Steve.
Yeah.
Because he's charming, he's charismatic, he's powerful, he's thoughtful, he listens, and he's treacherous and dangerous. And it's like, look at that face. It's like, just look at it. and on top of it, Harlem is his town.
Yeah.
And so that level of authenticity, when it came to the dialogue, when it came to what he wore, how he stood, just the energy of it, there are very few rooms that can hold this man and his vibe. So I'm proud to have had this man in our film.
A$AP, before you came in, Rada talked about your performance and gave a big shout out. And I wanted to, Paul, if you could give him a mic, I wanted to get a sense from you. Anthony talked about how you guys had worked together before, but what attracted you to doing this project? And what did you look at it and go, I can nail that. I got that guy.
It was manly and it was Harlem. You know, I read the book in high school. I had a connection to it, you know. I didn't read a lot of books in high school, so, you know, I mean, Harry Potter being one of them, I had to do this. I'm a little too old to do Harry Potter.
If they do the franchise again?
You never know, but but yeah, I had to do it, man. It was amazing. I mean, Walter Dean Myers, great author. The story, the narration, everything was so true. And me being a Harlem native, I just felt like it was appropriate to have, you know, actual Harlem people in there, you know.
One thing is, you know, we talked a lot about, Kelvin talked a lot about coming from NOLA and kind of trying to get into, and I hate to paraphrase a Billy Joel song, but New York State of Mind. But what was it like between the two of you and really understanding that relationship?
He was lit, you know. He was in character on and off screen. And, you know, I admired that. You know, because usually it takes like some type of counseling after or before to like cope with that, because that's serious art form. So I commend you and I respect you, because you would be in, you know, the kid even when the cameras were off. I mean, it took time for him to get over emotional scenes sometimes, and he had to get himself right to come back into his regular form. I just loved it. It was just a different experience.
Tanya and Nikki, I wanted to talk about one thing is there's a powerful visual language to this film. And as we go to other elements, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a contrast and a starkness. Some of which, obviously, Anthony, you can see in other elements of your work previously. Oh, well, Mr. Jeffrey Wright.
Apologies, I was having lunch.
We have a seat here. You're here, sorry.
I was having lunch with a Supreme Court justice. So you can forgive me. Yeah.
If you to give away, Jeffrey didn't quite say it. I was there earlier. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was down the street earlier today, and I thought I was going to be late because you can't walk out on Justice Ginsburg for obvious reasons. But she was fantastic.
She is fantastic,
Yeah.
and has been for decades.
And she says that she fully intends to keep going. That she has no
Pray
intention
for
of
her
leaving.
health. Pray for her health, everyone. Pray for longevity.
Yeah.
What I was going to say in response
Sorry,
to that
Nikki, for the
question. No, not at all. That's perfect introduction. I think one of the things that attracted us most about Anthony is that Anthony started as a photographer, and his visual sense was something we knew that this book, we keep talking about how difficult it was to translate. And Anthony, because of the way he sees the world, and very much the way Steve sees the world, I actually believe you're Steve, except I was talking here the way Steve does. So that's part of, we knew that he was going to be able to translate. I think Anthony can speak best to the way he created that visual language. But it is unique, and it is special, and it is through the eyes of Steve Harmon.
Tanya, I wanted to ask you, you've had an amazing year. I mean, She's Gotta Have It, the TV show on Netflix, yes? Renewed for a second season. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And now you use Monster here. What is, the Lee family have a history at Sundance, but for you, as a producer, as an African-American woman making the films that you want to make, what does having a film at Sundance mean to you?
Oh my God, it's incredible, actually, and it's fascinating to be here in a year when there are so many Black films, as Radha just spoke to. I think what we try to do is just make really good content and hope that people come to it and experience it, enjoy it, get something from it. And I feel that, at least with She's Gotta Have It, I've heard that we've accomplished that. And I hope for Monster that people come to this film, they take the ride, that they're really entertained, that they're like John was when he read the script, sort of at their seats, like, anxious about what's happening, but that then when they leave the theater, that they feel like they want to go out and do something. And I will say, having our first film here at Sundance, I hope it all goes well, so that it makes it a little bit easier the next time to get the next one set up. So, as a Black woman out here trying to do it, it's hard. It's really tough. But again, it's really wonderful when you have great content and then you find really wonderful partners like Aaron Gilbert, who came on to finance what we're doing and really support the mission of the work that we're doing. So it's a great time for us.
And Aaron, I wanted to ask you, a lot of times when people, especially when you're looking at independent film, there are a variety of challenges that occur, obviously. Coming into this film and addressing some of those challenges, what was the most satisfying element of it for you as a producer?
There were many satisfying moments with this material. With Braun Studios, what we try to do is really find those stories and find those filmmakers that are telling stories that are so important, that have a unique voice, but hopefully that are stories that blend, social and cultural important issues with entertainment. Like, this film is an entertaining film. Like, this is a wonderful ride for anybody who goes out to see it. It also happens to be a very important subject matter that needs to be talked about. And the greatest thing that I find, to answer your question, is that when we have audiences see this film, because we've shown several screenings of the movie, there's wonderful conversation that ensues. It creates a dialogue afterward, because there is that gray area. And the young people have to make decisions, and sometimes they're not equipped with all the information to do so. And does that mean they're deemed for a life of, for a certain, path in their life if they make a poor decision at age 15, 16, what have you? And man, does this film really hits hard on that and makes you ask a lot of questions.
Thank you, Aaron. Speaking of which, we're going to take some questions from you guys in a second. Unlike the first 2 days, we learned our lesson, and the passing around of the mic, which turned into like the 405 in LA at 6 p.m., we're actually just going to, you're basically going to have to yell. So if you can't yell, ask the person beside you to yell for you. But before we get to that, Rocky, you know, you obviously, like John, you have a massive career in the music industry. In a film like this, what do you think that the fans of your music are going to see from this film? And what are they going to learn about you from this film?
I think they'll learn that I know how to act, you know, but as far as I go, but I think they'll learn a lot from the film because, you know, a lot of people aren't aware of everyday struggles that black people go through, and they become, you know, common cliches to the point where they look past. And without saying the wrong thing, I feel like as individuals, we all have our own point of view and perception on things. And I think this is just another platform to give people to view how we see things. And just like the film I did, Dope, before, it was like a coming-of-age film because it dealt with Bitcoins and it had multi-racial actors and everything, and it was just diverse.
And now we can say you're a bi-coastal actor now.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, Dope takes place in South LA.
Yeah, that's true. That's tight.
Just kind of keep the geography real.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, but you know, in a nutshell, I would say I think they'll learn like I think a lot of adults will learn too what it's like to be a kid and not be in the wrong and also be accused of things, and just how to lighten up on kids and stuff like that, you know, and tighten up with these issues and whatnot. I'll let the film speak for itself. I can't really tell you much, man.
Well, I can say this, though, speaking of the parent-child relationship, Jeffrey, obviously your role in this film, and I wanted to get a sense, what did you bring, and if you don't want to answer this, it's perfectly fine, but what did you bring of yourself, of your own life to this in the role that you play here?
I'm not afraid of your question. I'm a father to a young black boy and daughter as well. A 16-year-old boy, brown-skinned boy, growing up in New York City. The Fort. In the Fort. So I think, you know, the resonances for me from this story are pretty obvious. And, you know, I try to bring something of myself to everything I do. I think we all do. You know, we can't not. If you're going to be authentic and if you're going to speak, it's all about expressing a voice. And in this case, yeah, it's about fatherhood. It's about bringing up boys in an environment, in a society, macro, micro, in which who they are is not necessarily perceived by the larger community or segments of the community. And that division between their genuine selves and how they try to define that as they're developing relative to how they're perceived. It's a huge challenge. It's one that can be overcome, but I think that sits at the heart of this story as well. You know, easy invitation for me to accept in this one. So.
We'd like to take a few questions from you guys. If you have a question, please, I'm sorry, the lights are bright, so I can't. Please raise your hand. And do we have? I can't see anyone. Oh, there's somebody back there, yes.
This is just an incredible film. I just want to say thank you for doing this. Like, I read this book in high school as well. And I'm curious, what do you feel gives you hope for black representation in film? Like, as you said, Tanya, for black, it's like a black year at Sundance. Like, what are you looking forward to? And what do you think the audience will respond to?
Is your question for anyone specifically?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Rada and Tanya.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know, again, I think it's an interesting time. I think that there are more people coming to play in the field of content. There are so many other places that are now putting content on their platforms, so that I think there are more opportunities that are happening. You know, look, I always talk about, you know, my husband who started 30 years ago when, you know, there were not many black people doing this work. Woo. And he really did. He said that when he got through the door.
You can clap for Spike Lee. I think, yes, you can.
I got to give it up because he said when he got through the door, he was going to take people with him. And he's brought a lot of people with him, and those people have brought people, and those people have brought people, and those people have brought people. Issa Rae will say, I mean, she grew up in the 90s. She was influenced by that and thought, oh my God, I can do that. Lena Waite said, oh my God, I can do that because they do that. So now here we are. And then there are people, there are all kinds of people out here with money who are looking to put money into things because it is a business and you got to find the money. And so we're at a moment where we have content meeting the business. And I think that it's only going to grow. And I think it's a really exciting time. And it's a major responsibility for all of us who are in this business. As you can see, we're all passionate. We all care very deeply about making quality programming. And I think it's only going to get better.
We also need for you guys to support the material that we put out in the universe.
Yeah.
Because if you guys go out and support the art that we're putting out there, it'll drive numbers and it'll drive our business. And it allows us the opportunity to create more.
Can I say one thing relative to that as well? I mean, if you look at the early numbers, you know, box office, early, you know, sales for Black Panther, you know,
through the roof,
pretty impressive. But it, you know, as to Mike's point, you know, that has to exist, you know, for the independent film as well. But the question is, I think I kind of frame it in this way. You remember, like, I mean, it's 2018 and we're still having these conversations. It's pretty incredible. You remember some of those of you who were, you know, around at this time when MTV started. You know, MTV wouldn't show black artists until Michael Jackson. So who were they showing prior to not showing Michael Jackson? Was it Mozart and I mean, who was so incredible that they bumped Michael Jackson? So, you know, how stupid, literally, how unbelievably stupid was that from a business perspective, not to include Michael Jackson within your content? I mean, so.
Who then went on to have the best-selling solo album of all time from that album.
He was pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
and I've heard, you know, he continued to be pretty good too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a one-hit wonder thing.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a reflection on the artist. It's not. It's a reflection on kind of the backward thinking, and I think in some ways the counterproductive thinking on those who are in charge of the business model.
And
right?
I would add, Jeffrey, and I would add this as a white guy. Part of it also is it's a prejudice that actually defeats itself.
It's
because
counterproductive.
because it's still a white male-dominated industry in those corner offices, and they're literally stopping themselves from making more money with bigger markets.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's a reality that people have to fight against.
And to be clear, it's not just black films.
No.
There are all
Female
kinds of
films.
other people in this country
Female films,
that
gays
need to
and
be
lesbians.
included in the story and have their stories told. And so anybody that's for inclusion and really representing what's happening in America and around the world, because it's a global marketplace, should be making films that include diverse casts, come from the points of views of diverse filmmakers, and there's no reason morally, there's no reason economically to not do it.
Yeah, exactly. That can get a round of applause. We have time for a couple more questions. Is there any? I'll have to stand up to see people. Yes. Kelvin, let's start with you. What was one of the biggest challenges?
I guess, well, I had to try to learn to skateboard, but that didn't happen.
No, that's hard, actually. No,
I ended up riding a bike.
Get that one out. 100% honest, my friend.
I was going to say one of the hardest things when we...
Did you learn to skateboard too?
No. I'll leave that to Kelvin at this point. You know, when Tonic first took this out, one of the hardest things was exactly what Mike and Jeffrey have been saying. Everyone was like, a drama with a black boy with a mostly black cast? I mean, who's going to go see that? And it's amazing, as you said, that we're having these conversations, but Tanya and I believed in it, and we knew that not only was it a powerful, important story that everybody was going to want to see, but it was going to be great business. And you guys are going to help us prove them that that's the case.
Yeah. Anthony?
For me, it was about weaving the three narratives, and once we got through production, and you started to talk a little bit about it, but essentially the film takes place in 3 time frames, and for each of them we created a different palette.
I didn't want to give that away.
You did it.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise. But we wanted to divide the film by giving them three films by giving them very distinct different looks. But as we assembled the film and put that tapestry together, that was a challenge. And I want to say a real special note to Joe Klotz, who's here, the masterful editor of Precious and The Butler.
Where's
June
Joe?
Bug in the
Hey!
back, who really helped find the voice of this film and pulled me out of the mud, literally and figuratively, to put it together. And that work of art, you know, for me was the biggest challenge.
Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the creators and the cast of Monster, debuting today, debuting tomorrow here at the Sundance Film Festival. Thank you very much for joining us. Just one more thing before we go. Stella, Artois have been an amazing host for all of us, and you can do a little bit to help back. Now, I'm not encouraging drinking, but if you buy this challenge, you can do a lot of work to help with the environment. This actually, contributions go to this. What is it, Zach? One challenge, 5 years of healthy drinking water around the world. So, have a beer and help the world. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your Sundance.